Morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another NerdTube Star Trek episode review and debate. I am Majo Rage, and I'm joined here by two of the finest Trekkies that I've ever met. To my right is Cousin Cheeto. How are you this evening, sir?
I'm feeling expendable.
No, you're totally not expendable. And below you is Zam. How are you this evening, sir?
I'm fine, thanks, and I hope my eyes are not as red as Jack's.
Right?
Not anymore. Not anymore. Um, So yeah, this week we have Star Trek Picard season 3 episode 7 Dominion. A lot to unpack with this week's episode, but also we have a bit of news in the world of Trek. A new series announcement dropped today. Starfleet Academy. Um yes, Cheeto is excited. We know. Zam, how do you feel about it? Are you excited?
Actually, well, this is like the biggest non-secret ever because there's been a lots of talk of a Starfleet Academy show. It's just how
For
they're going to pull it.
ages.
Yeah, for me, it's how you're going to pull it off because the idea sounds pretty cool and all of that. But if you're just stuck in Starfleet Academy for most of the time, you got to somehow make that interesting. Don't make it into a high school teen drama either. Like there's lots of elements, and then at the same time, if you do go off world all the fucking time, then how much of it is actually Starfleet Academy? There's a balance that needs to be.
Field trips.
Yeah, there's a massive like a lot of balance that needs to be played here, and then I'm sure you're gonna get your member berries and your nostalgia moments with like certain characters coming back. Sorry, playing.
They're coming.
Yeah, so certain characters coming back playing maybe lecturers of sorts, and
Well, and
you know,
that brings up my main question: is what era is this going to be placed in? Because they've always talked about Starfleet Academy. Will it be in the 32nd century? Will it be in the 25th century? Will it be in the 23rd century in the TOS era? Will it, I mean, I doubt it, but will it be in the 21st century or 22nd century, right? With Enterprise.
yeah.
Like
Well, look,
I highly doubt it's going to be the 22nd century. I doubt it'll be in the 23rd. I'm I'm hoping it's not in the 24th, which is TNG era. I'm hoping that this will kind of spin off from Picard and like that era, like the beginning of the 25th century. 2402. Let's go. Star Trek, Starfleet Academy.
I personally am not like doing cartwheels over this shit because it needs to convince me that it's going to be good because I personally don't think the premises is that amazing personally. I know a lot of people are looking forward to this and they think it's a really cool idea, but I'm not the biggest fan of this particular premises. What I want is a spin-off from what we're getting here in Picard. I mean, I want to stay in this sort of like post TNG era,
Well, that's what I want
and
too. I want post
yeah,
TNG era 24, 25th century, like academy recruits,
because
like
yeah,
the class of 2405. Like whatever 3 years
well,
from when the end of Picard is.
you have three television shows set in this period where you can bring back so many characters and actors, to member bury the fuck out of. You know what I mean? Whether it be from TNG, DS9, or Voyager. So like take advantage of that, and make something which is, maybe with the Titan crew or whatever. Liam Shaw seems to be a very popular person amongst Trekkies at this moment in time. There is something there. Who knows? I mean, we got two. I know I'm jumping ahead, but we got two. But coming back, I'm sure people were shooting their load over that. So yeah, just take advantage of this. And because look, Kurtzman wants to, um, if he's in my opinion, he's back. He's back. He's in my good graces at the moment. You can't go wrong with a post TNG era with when you've got Voyager, TNG, and DS9 to to fall back on if you ever need to do some member berries.
You got O'Brien that can still show up. I mean, he's literally like last we heard of him, he's literally at Starfleet Academy, like or what Starfleet headquarters or wherever.
Yeah.
Like he, like you literally have so many characters to play with in the 21st century.
Yeah, you can dock on DS9 and see Kieran Nerys again and stuff like that. You know, you can have Vice Admiral Janeway giving you orders or whatever. You know, you can maybe do an episode with Geordie LaForge or and then you could maybe do some crossover with Harry Kim and Worf or whatever.
Let's slow our roll here.
But the point is that people are so
teach at the academy.
Yeah, they don't let ensigns teach at the academy.
But people are like the Harry Kim situation. My goodness, that could finally get resolved with an up to date Star Trek show post TNG era by people finally figuring out where Harry Kim is regarding. But people are so overly obsessed with his fucking rank. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But you know what? You'll get your answer with this show. So
he deserves a promotion. Yeah. He deserved one wholeheartedly.
Look. In my opinion, I totally agree. But I've always said that whilst they're in the Delta Quadrant, it didn't mean jack shit. All they had to do was get back home, and then you get your fucking promotions. So once he got back home, we'll see what happens. And now they are back home. We can see where he is, whether he's a commander or even a captain. I mean, there's every possibility.
I would say he's probably a captain by now.
Hello there.
Maybe.
Yeah.
About 30 years post Voyager? It is right now.
Something like that. Maybe 25 years, 30 years. Yeah. No, not 30 years. I mean, like Voyager did start in the mid 90s. So.
Well, I'm talking about in Star Trek time. Like, I'm trying to remember what year Voyager actually made it home in the timeline and where that's in relation to 20. Well, 24.
It took him 7+ years, didn't it? I mean, they kind of done it in the seasons. It took him 7 years once they came out. But anyway, sorry for prolonging this rock and roll.
Okay, so no, I mean, I'm kind of in your camp, Zam. They're gonna have to prove to me that this is more than just an excuse to have more Trek on screen. I'm gonna watch it, of course, and we'll be here talking about it. But the premise has something to prove.
And I mean, this could be my Ginger Greek thing. Like this is something I've been championing for a long time, and then they just completely shit the bed with it. You know what I mean? Like I am full aware that this could be a disaster.
Well, so just one more thing to add is like this is where Star Trek will have to do the odd first season or two, realize what they've got, and then figure out finally once they found their feet exactly what direction to take the show after maybe 2 seasons, because fundamentally Star Trek always needs, with whatever show they bring out, like the first season or 2 is always just bedding their feet in before they really know what they got. And I think that will probably be the same with a Starfleet Academy show too.
No, very good point. So lots to unpack on the Picard episode this week. What were your overall thoughts of it? We'll start with you, Cheeto.
I thought it was good. It was, I don't know. I'm still kind of processing this episode. I just watched it before I had a chance to sit down here. But I can't say that I was particularly thrilled with this episode. I really feel like they're leaning into the Changeling conspiracy thing, and honestly, that's not what and the whole Jack Crusher thing. Like now he's reading minds. It's like, or like puppeteering people, and I'm just I'm not into that. Like I don't care. Like at this point, I don't care that Picard and Beverly have a kid. That's 37. That looks 37 years old. Like I just like this whole thing with Jack Crusher is just. I'm kind of done with it already. Like reveal it, get it over with. What do you want him for? What I feel like we're leading up to this big Frontier Day thing, and it's going to honestly be a big letdown. I really feel like we're going to get let down by this whole thing. And I'm really feeling the strain of this season. I really am. That's kind of my overall thoughts of this episode right here, and maybe the last one partially was kind of a turning point for me, where it's like, yeah, this is doing awesome. To Yeah. Zam.
Before I respond, can someone tell me what the hell happened to Worf and Raffi?
Oh, that would have been one of my points. We had no Worf and Raffi. We had we had a changeling Riker, but like there was only a glimpse of
No.
Riker in this episode and Troy.
Yeah, that's fine, but because they're on the Titan, or like the Worf and Raffi just fucking like, disappear, like did I miss something?
I think
They
They're
went
doing a
to
side mission?
scope something out. They went to check for signs of Riker at Psycomp or something. There was a throwaway line explaining why they weren't in the episode.
So they took a
And
shuttle, yeah, or some bullshit like
they
that. Or
took
they
a shuttle. They're
transported.
off the Titan right now, so
Okay,
convenient.
all right. Okay, well, regarding my thoughts on this episode, well, at least we got some revelation regarding what the fuck's going on. Not completely, because regarding Jack, that's still a mystery. But it was good to know why this particular group of changelings are doing what they're doing, and you almost feel for them to a degree. Um,
I mean,
I did like to, yeah. Sorry, go on.
I mean, let's be very clear. What Section 31 and the Federation did in the Dominion War was practically genocide. You know what I mean? It's not like when the Federation found out what a section. That's one of the great things about Deep Space Nine is that it put the Starfleet in a light of these guys are not as like everyone's like, oh, all of a sudden like Federation's the bad guys. No, the Federation's not been the bad guys the whole time, but they certainly have turned the other cheek when it suited them. And DS9 was one of those moments where it's like they had a cure. They could have given it to the changelings without their surrender. And instead they decided to look the other way until the peace accords were signed. And instead of giving them the cure as good faith. And granted, they could have given them the cure and the Dominion could have kept coming. But
Yeah,
I do feel for Vatic, and I do feel for the changeling people.
honey bun.
Honey bun, Vatty bun.
Yeah.
So I honestly like this. This is the whole part of the consequences of our actions that, not our actions, obviously, like as the Federation, but this is like the consequences of these actions, because you had to know that there were going to be people rising up and in the changeling, like they're going to be bitter. They've seen themselves as gods. And granted, yes, like do I think that the changelings are great people? No, but the Federation definitely is not much better when it comes to, because they practically committed genocide. So I don't know. Go ahead, Zam. Sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry. Like I said, regarding we got some revelation. We got a couple some really interesting twists here. I do think it's set up for a certain thing the following episode, which is a standard affair in what we see in television programs, where majority of people have been taken over, but there's still a couple of people who haven't. A bit like fucking Under Siege and Die Hard. It's gonna be Die Hard on Titan next week. So like I said, there's all of that, but nevertheless, I did like this episode to a degree. It was a bit different, but it was good to see more of Honey Bun, and why she took on that particular face and all of that. That was really interesting. I'm not sure how I'm feeling about Jack and all of that. Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, let's just talk about it, and I'm happy to bring up some stuff as we go along.
I'm sorry, Mage. Before you jump in, Jim says hello. He says very powerful episode. He also says that Star Trek Voyager Endgame aired on May 23rd, 2001. I understand that. I was talking about what date did Voyager get home in the Star Trek timeline, which I did look up, and it turns out that they got home in 2378. So that means that this iteration of Trek takes place like almost 25 years after the return of Voyager. Anyway, sorry.
And Daniel Vance is late, but it's okay. At least you're here.
Yeah, we actually just kind of gave our thoughts, and we talked about the announcement of Star Trek.
Thoughts and prayers.
Huh?
We gave our thoughts and prayers.
Yes, our thoughts and prayers. Okay.
Daniel Vance being late.
Oh. Anyway, so we also talked about, in Daniel Vance, if you want to put your comments down in there, we talked about the Starfleet Academy show they just announced, which I'm championing for, but I know I could be totally let down. Dean Vance also says, use whatever sparks of joy or sparks joy. Happy birthday to Annie Wershing, the Borg Queen, on what would have been her 46th birthday, March 28th, 1977. That is correct. Happy birthday to Orla Bradley Laris on March 28th, 1961. One of the hottest Romulans ever. Happy birthday to Maria Sirtis, Deanna Troy, yesterday.
68. Wow.
And Daniel and Jim says, hi, Daniel. Okay. Sorry, Mage. You are officially out the gate, man. Don't let me stop you.
Nope. We've got to say hi to our people in the chat. That's who we're here for.
Wait, we're here for other people other than ourselves? I mean, this is a vanity thing for me. I mean, come on.
All right. So we start the episode with the Titan sitting in the Chintanka scrapyard. Seven is on screen inquiring with Tuvok about Riker's whereabouts, and that's kind of setting up that they've been reaching out to people trying to find allies in their fight. Tuvok says that Riker's not in Starfleet custody. It's 36 hours till Frontier Day. A voice analysis is inconclusive.
I just want to say, like, Frontier Day, like, that's definitely going to be the final episode, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because it feels like Frontier Day is just around the corner for the last 7 episodes. And now you mentioned it, I swear it was only 16 hours just last week, and now it's 36 hours. What the fuck?
No, it was 72 hours last week, and then I think
really?
it got down to 36. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a countdown clock. I think it's down to 16 hours in this episode. But no, you're right. The big climactic end will be at Frontier Day when the Enterprise F is coming in, and yeah, it's just going to be kind of that's going to be the final stage.
Daniel Vaughn says the Chaka Khan system is where some DS9 battles of the Dominion War took place. Dax died as the first battle of Chaka Khan took place, and Dukat released the what the fuck, the Par Wraith?
The Par Wraiths, DS9.
Okay.
Yeah, the devils, the anti-prophets.
Oh yes, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, they're the bad prophets, but still prophets.
Yeah.
Wormhole aliens.
No such thing as bad prophets if you're a Ferengi.
That is
all
true.
Right, let's move on. Okay.
It's like publicity. So the voice analysis is inconclusive. So Seven starts trying to suss out if this is the real Tuvok or not by talking about shared experiences. She mentions their games of Calto. When he speaks like he remembers them, they act relieved. She lists a meeting place. When he's down for this meeting place, it lets Seven know that this is not Tuvok, that no Vulcan would want to go to that place. Apparently, they had anti-Kolinar demonstrations.
Well, look, when she was mentioning about their games of camel toe and stuff like that, trying to figure out
camel toe. What the fuck, camel toe?
Yeah, exactly. And she's trying to suss him. The moment she realized that this guy is an imposter and it's not Tuvok, I really wanted Tim Russ to go full mustachio villain in that Tuvok, but in Tuvok's body. I would have loved to have seen that, but all we just got was a little wry smile instead. I wish we got a little bit more out of him, seeing him in Tuvok, but acting very emotional and very evil. That would have been a nice touch.
That would have been pretty cool.
I mean, this is another one of those cameo scenes that I'm kind of like, I kind of feel like he should have been a villain of the week. Like, they had Tim Russ back. Like, why not let him be the villain of the week? Like, they go to Tuvok and all, and we think, oh, okay, well, now we're gonna get another ally, and then we find out that it's not him, and Tuvok has been replaced by a changeling, and but they have to escape Tuvok. You know what I mean? Like, he could have been like the villain of the week. And I'm okay with villain of the week stuff. Like, I think it's good, like that you have that kind of separation per episode. And then at the end of the episode, they escape Tuvok and they kill the changeling that was impersonating Tuvok. Now the big mystery is, where's Tuvok? And I know we still have that mystery, but it just wouldn't have been like a cameo scene. Like, we're all expected to just be like, where's Tuvok? Oh, by the way, now we're back to
personally, in my opinion, and I hate to say this, but anybody they're impersonating should be dead. There's no point in keeping. You still have ruthless. The changelings are. It would make no sense for them to keep people alive.
Well, and
If they're impersonating them like Tuvok.
But here's the other thing: like the weapons make no sense in this, because sometimes they vaporize changelings and sometimes
they do nothing.
Yeah, they do nothing. So I'm like,
yeah. That
there's no indication if one's set to kill and one's set to stun, or one's set to disintegrate beam, or one's sent to suck instead of blow. There's the weapons are so inconsistent. At least in the original Star Trek, it was like stun, kill. And they said it. Set phasers to stun, set phasers to kill. You knew if they meant business or not. And usually there was a green bar or a red bar.
Kill was disintegration though as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like why are they disintegrating some and not others? Like it just to me it just makes no sense. And that's one of the frustrating parts of this right now is that they're ignoring consistency for plot convenience in some of the parts of this episode. So anyway, Mage, continue. I'm sorry.
No need to apologize. That's a very good criticism, and it's very inconsistent. But no, the further we get into the season, the more they sacrifice the consistency for plot convenience and sacrifice good opportunities like having Tim Russ back on for realizing that they're running out of time and we need to
remember Barry, by the way. It wasn't they had Tim Russ and they really used him well. They had him as pure fucking member Barry.
Yeah.
Even though it made sense why, because obviously out of everyone on the Titan, Seven would know him best.
Mm-hmm.
But it was nevertheless a member Barry. Let me a couple of comments from Vance. Geordie says it's time they accept that they're on their own. How many others did they attempt to contact before Tuvok?
They said they tried to attempt to contact Janeway, but they couldn't get through to her. So, I know that, that makes sense, but...
And Sydney and Jack had two different... It looked like they both had phases, surely.
And maybe that's it. Maybe that's just me not being observant enough to realize.
Maybe Jack grabbed hold of the alien weapon, which was the disintegration gun, but Starfleet weapons can disintegrate too. Last time I checked, So
didn't Jack disintegrate the changelings that attacked him the last episode?
Yeah, but did he? If the only argument people, and even then it's not a good argument, is that he might have grabbed hold of their weapon to kill the changeling. But once again, Starfleet weapons can disintegrate you as well. So what the fuck? We saw it with that fucking pot. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Which I am conceding that was disintegrated. So what the fuck? If they could disintegrate a pot, they can. But yeah, sorry, I'm just doing some cleanup anyway. But yeah, all right, let's continue.
So Seven asks what they've done with the real Tuvok. The changeling taunts them, and it turns into a cadaverous Riker. And then we get the line that Daniel Vance just brought up in the chat. Geordi saying that it's time to face facts, that they're on their own. We cut to the ready room where Jean-Luc, Geordi, and Beverly kind of discuss things and the lay of the land. Bev says that she's weighing the morality of trying to develop a weapon or a tool to detect these evolved changelings, and that kind of sets up a thread we'll see play out through the episode, that Bev's questioning if she's lost her moral compass. Jean-Luc says that they should cross that bridge when they come to it, and wonders, they kind of wonder if the changelings aren't out to make a perfect Picard doppelganger using his stolen biological body and Jack's blood. They decide to go to the new data android for more information. Yeah.
No, I don't. It goes back to the whole plot of this whole thing is like, why though? Like, they want to impersonate Picard. They want him to go up there and like call the Federation a bunch of cunts, a bunch of fucking cunts. But like, I am Admiral Jean-Luc Picard, and you're all a bunch of fucking cunts. You know, like that. Like I'm sure there will be some kind of bomb or something involved, but it's like, why? Like,
Why do they need Jean-Luc?
yeah, why? I mean, all Jean-Luc is doing is giving a speech. It's not like he's like.
Well,
I-
I'm,
Go ahead, Sam.
I'm not sure if I'm jumping ahead, but apparently they trying to get his old body and his son's DNA to create the ultimate fucking Picard. Like,
But also
why?
keep in
Like,
mind they have not. That's what they're speculating. I figure that's
Yeah.
not what it is.
no,
No,
but yeah, but the speculation is fucking stupid.
yes, that's a dumb idea.
They're changeling. They don't need to do that. They already are able to mimic their DNA and shit. Like, what the fuck is this bullshit?
Well, I think
Like,
I think they've
seriously.
got to go through extra. I think they got to go through extra genetic clarification or whatever that
to
that
what
they got to
degree?
go through.
Because initially, when Picard was suspicious of Ro, we all were suspicious of Ro, thinking that she was a changeling at first, but we knew that she could pass the test because they are able to mimic human DNA. So, to what fucking degree? I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I just thought that theory by Picard and Beverly was ridiculous. Welcome, Ginger, you fucking bastard. Picard is Luke's father. Yeah, you're damn right. You're damn right on this one. And he happens to be, part man, part machine too. So yeah.
And also, Daniel Vance points out, I laughed at the fact that they all changed outfits now that they're a rogue ship. Got to get those new outfits.
Yeah,
that's right. They got to suck more
jackets.
money out of all the fan film creators getting those rogue Starfleet outfits. Like I seriously don't like that's another consistency thing. It's like the uniforms are like I was very happy that they were having some consistency with uniforms now, like with Picard and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like, I know the reason why all the uniforms look the same in the original shows was because of budget. I almost feel like you need to go back to that. Like you need to start having people borrow uniforms because we want some consistency between like all Starfleet personnel. Even on Discovery, the uniforms were more. I hate those blue uniforms, but they were more consistent than what we've ever gotten in Picard, for sure. Like they've had more uniforms in 3 seasons of Picard than every other Star Trek combined.
Unmoving vagina. I thank you very much for this, but no.
What? Why not? Why can't we do it, Zam? Come on, Papa Zam. Let's put out that money.
Yeah, fair enough.
Go, Mage, before we
all our StreamYard savings will invest it into Doge hype.
Yeah.
Doge hype.com.
So when activated, the new data is almost immediately hijacked by the lore personality, and they begin fighting for dominance.
It's full on Jekyll and Hyde, isn't it now?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I really don't like this. I was hoping it would just be lore.
Look. Personally, I agree with Cheeto because you've buried data, and I understand. Obviously, you can put his mind, into you can put his data, no pun intended, so to speak, into another persona and match it and all of that, but. They did even though I thought it was a terrible job, but they did do a job of trying to, say, okay, goodbye, data, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Just to bring him back, I think that's a disservice to what they've done in season 1. As shit as it was still a disservice.
I was going to say, as bad as that decision was, it's still...
was a disservice to the end of Nemesis.
Yeah. It's just a disservice to TNG in general. You know what I mean?
So
just keep it as lore, because you want to bring Brent Spiner back in some capacity,
and we still have the question mark of lore. So why? It's the final season of TNG. Why not? Lore was a reoccurring villain.
Spiner is only ever going to come back as a Sung or as an android. So if you bring him back as one of those, Data's gone. There's still a couple of other androids he can come back as. Bring him back as lore. People would mark out for that. And now you're doing this Jekyll and Hyde bollocks. I'm not feeling it.
No,
it's lame. It's the whole fighting for dominance thing, and begging Picard for help. It's tugging at our heartstrings in a cheap, condescending way.
It just reminded me of Star Trek Generations when like the firefights going on the what is it, the solar station or whatever, and it's like Data's like cowering in the underneath these like he's trying to fight, or Geordi I think is trying to fight Sauron. Is it Sauron, right, from Generations, Dr. Sauron? And
Sounds
like
right.
yeah. And it's just like, and it's just that's what this reminds me of. It's just like when his emotion chip went haywire. Like that's it. That's all this reminds me of.
Look, Daniel Vance likes the idea. I like the idea of the song. Finally realized that, but is it bicameral? Mine is the
Bicameral.
solution. Bicameral. I bet we say in United Kingdom. I bet we say bicameral. I
Probably.
bet, even though it's the
Yeah,
first
you
I've
also
heard of
say
this word.
caramel. So
Yeah. As a
Bicameral.
solution and put. Look, my point is that this, even if he's got like the sort of like personality of Data in this body, how does this personality know the history that they had with Picard? If you get what I'm saying, like, isn't this like a whole new Data personality that he's creating, which hasn't got a history with Starfleet? Or
I think they're talking about he does have
all
all the memories because he's basically Data's Data. Like.
How does he find it? Like, is there a fuck? Is it like data in the cloud somewhere, or what the fuck? You know what I mean?
They found it in the plot convenience black hole.
And same with Law as well. Like, he seems to know. Like, I mean, I can understand like having a good personality and a rogue personality, but I just anyway. It's I'm burning my own brain up thinking about this shit. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, they've done such a poor job writing it that they have to like cram in the exposition by having Geordi figure these things out, looking in the in the files and everything.
Geordi had to Reading Rainbow explain it to us.
Yeah, if you have to have the character straight up explain something, it's probably bad writing. Then Data gives some exposition. The Soong research suggests that there was something more in Picard, and he might not have Ironic syndrome. Oh, and,
what the fuck?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I that's what I thought they meant, and I'm like face palmed. I'm like, no, okay. I don't.
They're jumping the shark. They're jumping the shark hard this episode, this early on. And so the Data asks Picard for help, tugging at our heartstrings in a cheap way. Geordi and Jean-Luc say that they can't possibly live through this again. So we're probably going to have yet another cheap Data death scene where, they're tore up by having to lose him again.
Or I think maybe what they'll do is like the lore and Data will converge, and then they'll become one personality where it's
Dragon Ball Z with fucking fusion. You know what I mean?
Pretty much, yeah. That's my thought, and my big problem with that, and I was going to bring this up when we got to it, is why not just do that from the beginning? Why not just say this is a Data that has all aspects of Soon, B4, which really doesn't make much sense because B4 was an idiot, lore and Data, and it's like, but they're all merged into one. So there will be moments where Data will say something that sounds more like lore, but he doesn't like switch person, like Sam was saying, the Jekyll and Hyde. Like there's a more dubious Data. Like it's not all cut and dry with this Data. He actually does have like those lore aspects to him where he's willing to bend the rules a little bit. But then there's also the logic side, which is the Data side. So I felt like they should have just started with that. Like, this is not Data, it's not lore, it's lore Data.
A whole new, yeah.
That would have been compelling, though.
Initially, though, it should have just been lore. Initially.
I agree. Best case scenario, it should have just been lore. Even if they let it with like he was pretending to be Data at first just to get on the Titan, and then once he was on, then he went full on lore. Like that, I could understand. But it's like, no, like this whole Jekyll and Hyde thing is just it's asinine and it's stupid.
Yeah, so on the Shrike, Captain Honeybun reports in to the floating head again.
Now this
The
floating head is starting to look like a fucking piece of like chicken thigh. You just want to like throw it on the fucking grill and cook it up.
so apparently she can't get Will or Deanna, who are both busy off screen and can't be in this episode, just like Worf and Rafi. Can't get them to talk. The head orders her to find Jack no matter what.
By the way, I just want to say that this episode is 46 minutes long, and I do feel that with these episodes being close to an hour, that I do feel that there were Riker and Deanna scenes possibly, or maybe
that
even
got
Worf
cut.
scenes that got cut, because it's the only way that you can explain why this episode was shorter than the others. And maybe the people who made this episode made this episode. I mean, maybe the editors realized, you know what, this episode's probably better without them. Keep it a mystery.
I mean, there's so
It's just be
much going
melodramatic.
on this
Yeah.
episode to keep it tight and focused on these events. Definitely helped what an episode that needed all the help it could get.
Well, and maybe
Maybe
making
they
it
did.
feel a little bit more claustrophobic, because that's what they were going for. Like everything's happening on
Yeah.
the Titan. So I mean, I think probably next week we'll probably see more of Raffi and Worf, and maybe obviously Will and Deanna, I would say. But
I think also Will obviously had to sell out the Titan crew for his wife, but maybe it's just something they didn't want to show on screen.
I don't think they had to. What? No, I think they lured. I think they purposefully lured the Shrike to them. Isn't that what it was?
No, well, there was no, but there was like they kind of got an idea of which direction to go, so to speak.
Well, no, because at the beginning of the episode, she said that they weren't breaking, and they won't break in their time remaining.
Fair enough.
So I don't think they broke. I just think that they were off screen, negotiating contracts.
Yeah.
So in the turbo lift, Jack is trying to ask Sydney to go somewhere and chill when he starts hearing her thoughts and his eyes do the red glowing thing again.
Paramount Plus and chill.
It's like, okay, I need to find Riker and arrange one of these poker games. That's what he needs to be doing. Guy will be fucking the best player on the planet.
That'd be a nice callback, but no, he's going more modern day with it.
Riker didn't break to protect his fake son in the Romulan hologram prison.
There was always a moment that Riker always kind of like, he was always a bit skeptical of everything in the first place, in my opinion. So I remember that episode. That was a fantastic episode.
That was a really good TNG episode. But yeah, no, I think we've already said how we kind of feel about everything they're doing with Jack and the red eyes and the Irumodic syndrome. So it's at this point the Shrike sends the Riker's compromised captain code to the Titan, and this upsets Jack. He asks to talk to the Admiral. He basically wants to hand himself over. He says that Riker's been decent to him since the moment he met him, and he doesn't want him in trouble on his account. He says that he's always felt like something was wrong with him. But Jean-Luc says that he's not going to give up on him, and he comes up with a plan to get themselves the advantage for the first time. The Shrike arrives, finding the Titan.
What we've learned now is don't go with Picard's plans.
Dude, seriously, this whole season has been one Picard fuck up after another.
Yeah.
It's almost like you shouldn't listen to the plans of the septuagenarian.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, so you lost me.
Super old dude.
Oh, that's not fair enough. Boomer.
Yes, it's SAT word for boomer. The when the strike arrives, it looks like the Titan and a Vulcan ship are both dead in the water. Vatic leads a boarding party onto the Titan. When Jack appears before her, she says that she wants to take him somewhere to a better place, and that it's best to show him and not tell him, and then he leads her on a chase. He runs down the hall, meets Sydney at an intersection. They stop and fire on the pursuing changelings.
Now, this is like, don't get me wrong. I'm sure Sydney's a capable Starfleet personnel, but she's a fucking pilot. What the hell is she doing in this particular scene? Like, you need somebody who's a bit more robust and security personnel or something like that to be doing this, not the fucking pilot.
I mean, all Starfleet officers go through that combat training. I get what you're saying, like, but I mean, you've get people like Harry Kim who can fight, and he's an ensign. You know, like even in the beginning of Voyager, it's like
I'm sure they all have multiple skills, but you know, like I'm sure an engineer can pilot a ship and vice versa. But you know, but you get the person who's right for the job at this particular moment in time. We are dealing with the fucking Dominion here. So let's not fuck around and get somebody whose second or third best attribute is to be a fighter. Let's get the best fighter involved in this, if you know what I mean.
And I agree that that's another plot point that we get to where I'm like, why? Because they left a skeleton crew on the Titan. So there are other crew members. So why is it just Sydney and Jack? Like, I think that's the point you're making, right?
Yeah, to a degree. I just felt like Sydney wasn't the right. I mean, for a start, in as much as LaForge is like, you know, he's trying to let go to a degree. He wouldn't sign off on this particular issue. For a start, he'd be very.
It's like it makes no sense. You've got other crew members on board too.
You got other crew members who are, in my opinion, more capable of pulling this off better, who are able to defend themselves better. Because really, she wasn't able to fight, you know, without her pistol, and she came across kind of incompetent until fucking Jack fucking took over her body. So you needed somebody who's more capable in the fight than fucking Sydney and fucking LaForge.
Yeah, she's only there as a plot convenience so she can be in peril and give that drama for Geordi later in the episode.
Exactly.
And it wouldn't be as bad if they just happened to catch up with Sydney.
Put Seven there, like Seven. You know, if Seven would have been a much capable person.
Yeah, she was a Venerus Ranger. Like, she got herself out of many hairy situations.
Seven can kick ass.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, she can.
And she'll do it
fight
with a mathematical precision.
Exactly.
She's a Sherlock Holmes of Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, before I read some comments, let's keep going.
So after they engage with the enemies, Shaw and Seven start dropping force fields, trapping Vatic's men, and then eventually Vatic in place. But before Geordi can beam Sydney and Jack out of the final junction where they got all the changelings trapped around them, they lose transporter control, and Lore is rearing his head.
Bum bum bum.
That one I saw a million miles off. Like,
oh yeah,
here we go. We're gonna connect this guy to our fucking systems, and we're not gonna.
Why did they leave him on?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You know, like, Jesus Christ.
So
have they not watched TNG? Jeez. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like they forgot everything they've ever known about dealing with Lore.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Beverly and Jean-Luc come to play good cop, bad cop and interrogate Captain Honeybun. She taunts them and drops hints. Do you know about your son's anatomy? They discuss the Dominion War and the virus, the genocide virus that Starfleet developed and used to end the war. Then we get the reveal that Starfleet is why some of these changelings have the ability
Of course
to.
it would. Of course
I-
it
Yeah.
is.
I saw that coming from a mile away. Like,
But
because
Yeah,
of
the-
course Starfleet did that.
Of course, they experimented on some changelings because Section 31.
Yeah, and that's kind of my thing. Is like, I mean, I know the Federation has been dubious in the past, but it always boils down to like, oh, the Federation's not as pure as they say they are. No shit, Sherlock. Like, duh. Like, we all know this. It would have kind of made more sense if it would have maybe have been like the Cardassians, like had some, like found leftover clean or leftover changelings and were experimenting on them, or like because of Odo and everything like that, kind of pulled the Bajor on it. Although the Bajoran scientist who didn't experiment with Odo didn't really like do the stuff that other scientist was doing. But still, it's like, can we do something other than, hey, Section 31, or hey, the Federation's really bad? Like, come on, like that's just it's
That was a
dark for
lot.
it's dark for the sake of being dark. You know
It
what I
was
mean?
a lot more fresh an idea 30 years ago.
Yes.
and like like they've already look, in my opinion. Sorry, let me rephrase myself. The whole point of Star Trek and Starfleet was to show us a brighter future, and slowly they're kind of eroding that, and they're making out Starfleet to be not as good as they are. So I don't know how I necessarily feel about that. I'm not saying they should necessarily be perfect, but being like these so-called explorers, but also having a secret division where they fucking they're doing they're doing experimentations on other life forms. It just doesn't feel very Star Trekky. It doesn't feel very Starfleety, regardless of it being Section 31.
Well,
You know what I
and
mean?
that's kind of the point I've always made. Like, everyone's like, "Oh, new Trek is." I'm like, oh, the future is supposed to be bright. And I'm like, no, the Federation can be bright. We can try to make the Federation like a collaboration of all these races and all of these cultures, and that it's almost a perfect utopia. That's fine, but not everybody's going to adhere to that. The Orions, for example, they are not a part of the Federation, so they don't have to adhere to those rules. The Dominion obviously don't have to adhere to those rules. So we like to see how the Federation deals with those outside factors in their perfect idea of exploration and self-exploratory exploration and everything like that. But now we're just kind of delving into, like Zam said, like the Federation's not as great as it seems. It's like, that's not really the point. What we're getting at, like, we want the Federation to be good, and it's not just like, humans are good and
Good,
everybody else is bad.
well, good, but not necessarily perfect. Like they make mistakes, but they're trying to necessarily do the right thing. But if they've got shady divisions within their ranks, then like where do they stand in the first place? I mean, it almost becomes like it almost becomes it almost. I don't know. I'm about to say like very corporate, but I'm not sure if that's the right term, because there is still no money at the end of the day. But it almost feels very government like, with shady organizations. Let me just quickly read some comments here. The planet was part of the Vulcan database. It was destroyed by the neutronic storm, and the records are how Archer came up with the plan to live in the catwalks during the similar storm. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
It's
but
an
these
episode.
guys
It's an
do.
episode of Enterprise.
Where they
You're
chill out
buying
and
the
live in
Sydney
the
would
nacelles.
run. They were banking on Vadik believing that too. Well, but she did run, and she then got caught, and then her face was slammed into the shield. 7 wouldn't run. It was a trap. Yeah, 7 even got outsmarted. By the way, Vadik says, "Tick tock, the ancient clock. We're out of time." This sounds a lot like a prophecy. Yeah. So anyway,
No, so Geordi explains to Alondra that Lore is messing with them just because he loves chaos, and the changeling asks Jack how he's going to feel when Sydney dies for him. And then we cut back to Captain Honeybun Vatic, And she gives her backstory of being held at the Daystrom station during the Dominion War, being experimented on, along with 9 of her siblings, fellow changelings. She has this pretty good monologue about the symphony of different sounds there while she was being held and tortured, and just really good performance. I felt like there's a lot of good acting in this episode that kind of tries to undo a lot of the crummy writing.
I agree. This is probably my favorite part of the episode. Like listening to a changeling's side of what happened during the Dominion War. And we all know the Dominion War was instigated by the Dominion. But at the same time, you know, you kind of get a different perspective on things. And even Picard saw that, you know. So I thought this was a fantastic scene. It was the diamond in the rough of this episode.
Couldn't have put it better. So she explains that she ended up being made into the perfect spy, and that she can spread this ability by linking with other changelings. The Federation took my family, and now I will take yours. So we get.
I like the way she took the face of her
Son,
of her torturer.
Oh. Well, I mean, and that's kind of traditionally what changelings have done, because Odo took the face of the scientist who found him. Like they look very similar.
I always thought Odo was trying to create his own face, which is why his face looked like so undeveloped.
He just wasn't good at forming complete faces. Like he didn't learn how to, at least in the span of DS9, which I thought would have been a great show of like, physical character.
You see him like replicate other people. So I don't get that.
No, you're right. It's absolutely a plot hole why he never kind of gave himself more of a
No, because remember that episode of DS9 where they go on that planet where they see their future self, like they end up on a planet where they're supposed to be stranded on that planet. And
you're talking about the one where they go 100 like 50 years in the future or something, or
maybe a bit more than that. But then they see Odo as well, and his face has been more developed because he's had more time to develop his face. So that's why I always thought that his face looked the way he did, because he's always trying to create his own unique look, but it wasn't complete. And then with that next episode, where they were they were stranded on that planet, and they saw the future Odo, he had time to develop his face, if you know what I mean. Anyway,
so there's the high intensity music continues to swell, and we get another good scene, this back and forth. There's basically two scenes happening parallel. Beverly and Jean-Luc contemplate finishing Vadic off after Beverly, recounts that, she's too calm, she's too confident. She wouldn't have told us all this unless she wanted us to know. And Geordi's giving this really emotional speech about the nature of friendship and how being friends with Data and the memory of him made him a better person, a better father.
Power of friendship.
Yeah, an anime style power of friendship speech.
Oh, he was trying to appeal to Data. Go, Data, I know you're in there. Just fight it, man. That old adage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the inner battle.
You know what I mean?
The inner battle trope.
About to fucking die. But the funny thing is, his daughter would have died if it wasn't for fucking Jack. So yeah.
Yeah. And Lore lowers the force fields. Vadic escapes. Jack and Sydney get attacked. What you were talking about earlier with her getting her head slammed into a force field happens. And we get this insanity of Jack taking control of her like a video game character. And at least that's how I interpreted it. It seemed like he was controlling her.
It did, but it also, like in the beginning, it just seemed like he was telling her what to do.
But the fact that he was making the same movements and
stuff.
Yeah,
he was making the same movements. Yeah.
I know. And that's why I'm kind of like confused. I'm like, okay, is this telepathy or is this puppeteering? Like what? Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like the whole jack of this whole thing is just stupid. I cannot stand the whole Jack part of this.
Yeah.
I know. have you guys ever seen a Jackie Chan movie called Twin Dragon?
I have not.
It's like he basically plays twins, and one of them is a martial artist, the other one's a pianist, and the pianist can't fight to save his life, but eventually, because they're twins, like he realizes that they can kind of control each other's movements.
What?
That's yeah, I know, it's weird. It's weird. So like when he sees his twin brother, the pianist, in trouble but can't reach him, he starts like just doing martial art moves, and his twin brother is able to do it as well. It's just like, what the fuck? And it just reminded me of that. You know, it reminded like there's some, if you watch Twin Dragon, there's some scenes which kind of reminded me of that. You know, which in this episode. Yeah.
Twins.
With Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Look very similar.
Very similar. So Data regains control and returns the controls to the bridge. Jean-Luc and Beverly determine a way to track Vadic and her men via the compound that was used to augment them. But it's too little too late. Vadic makes her way to the bridge, calls out over the intercom system, addressing the ship, declaring herself the captain. And
I just want to say, prior to that, when they beat the shit out of Shaw, you know, and then they bring him up for the turbo lift, and they're obviously making themselves look like the interior of the turbo lift, the changelings are. But somehow they have guns on them, so how are they able to hide the guns? Because you know they can't replicate that, or they can't hide that. If you know what I mean, like that was a bit weird.
Maybe it was within the goo.
Maybe this whole segment of the episode felt a little rushed. They could have taken more than the 46 minutes they took, and
Yeah,
they could have paced this one a little bit better. But with her final message, Captain Honeybun tells Jack that it's time to learn who he truly is, and the credits roll.
And why wouldn't you leave us on a cliffhanger telling us who he is? Now, I mean, like, here's my thing. It's like the cliffhanger shouldn't be, it's time to find out who you are. She should tell him who he is, and that's the cliffhanger, so we can all speculate. Like, we still don't know who he is. I mean, he's a
We've
freaking...
been wondering the same questions for weeks now, so it's not much of a cliffhanger if we've already been wondering.
Yeah, right.
Well, look, Beverly knows that this is her son, because she would know that because she fucking gave birth to the guy.
Unless
she'd also put, yeah. Sorry, go on. Unless what?
Unless there's some kind of like mental shenanigans here, like
I know that. I know Star Trek are capable of doing that, but so far, and unless that comes out, I mean, which would be the most annoying thing ever if they go down that route. I'm aware of that, and I hope they. And I'm trying to pretend that's not going to happen. But
that was my first thought when like Vadic gave her, like when Beverly said, "Oh, he's my son" or whatever, and she just looked at him like, "Is he though?" Like, and that's when I'm like, "Oh shit!" Like, is there some kind of like mental memory plant going on here, and it's not actually Picard's son?
Well, Beverly believes it's Picard's son. Riker, the way they've explained this episode, that he looks a lot like Jean-Luc Picard as far as they're concerned. So that's Picard's son. So at one point, did he get experiment on? I mean, look, what Jesse Gender said is that he's Borg as well, you know, which is what makes him so unique. It's not necessarily what the changelings have done to him, but the fact that they know that he's more than what he seems to be, and because he might be Borg.
Right.
Because
of that line where Vadic said,
yeah.
you know, what about your son's anatomy? That line sticks out in my mind. And I think that the whole Borg aspects from, you know, remaining in Locutus and getting passed along.
And if I could just quickly say this before I forget, and because like the Borg have some sort of unique collective, because he's human but with Borg sort of DNA in him, the collective is humans, which is why he's able to connect to them if you know what I mean. If you see where I'm coming from.
Okay, I think I see what you're saying with that.
Yeah, so like, if he was part of the Borg, he'd be a collective within the Borg. But he's human, but he still has that collective sort of DNA within him. So now that just works amongst humans. So that's why he's able to control Sydney, if you know what I mean.
He's Bluetooth enabled.
Yeah, exactly.
God.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
I
what?
guess.
That is if this is true, I am making a meme of Jack Crusher with his eyes lighting up red and it just being saying Bluetooth enabled.
Now
But
pairing.
those visions still need to be explained as well, because they haven't really explained that. So I'm hoping next week that we will get to that, and then by the time we get to Frontier Day, we'll see Picard being transported down, and the president of Earth is about to give a speech, and Picard jumps and saves his life, and some changeling gets caught trying to assassinate him, and we get Star Trek 6
Star
all
Trek
over again.
6, got it.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, it's my favorite it's my favorite TMP era movie. So I mean,
yeah. All right.
I think that's the episode, right?
That was the episode. So guess let's give some overall thoughts and marks. I'll start with you, Zam.
I gotta do the poll.
Paul.
I thought it was an okay episode. This was the episode of Revelations. At the same time, I don't know, like there's just something just a little bit not right about this episode, which kind of upset me to a degree. I did like the fact, like they had a plan, and it backfired. You know what I mean? But once again, now we are set up with Die Hard on a starship next week. So we'll see how that pans out. And I do expect, even though they are on a skeleton crew, the skeleton crew doesn't just mean the people on the fucking bridge. I am expecting not just Picard and Crusher and Jack and Sydney to get their way out of this, but I think obviously Geordie and his other daughters not on the bridge as well, so they haven't been captured. I think maybe Data could be playing the wild card here as the person who can, like if you're ever in trouble, just rely on Data will get you out of the fucking jam. He's very good at that. He's like a Swiss Army knife of a fucking Starfleet officer. So, but obviously with Law being within him, that might backfire. I do expect maybe a few more red shirts to be killed off, who are not on the bridge. Exactly. Yeah. So we'll see how that pans out. I do, and we need to obviously know who that fucking Kavada flesh is as well, who's being, who Honeybun talks to now and again by chopping off her hand. There's a whole bunch of things, and as well, don't forget, Worf and Raffi are still somewhere, which they'll have to play their part, and maybe we'll finally get some Riker scenes as well. Maybe they do an escape of some sort. I think that Diana Troy will try to like go within herself and command her telepathic abilities to maybe control one of the changelings. I know she doesn't have telepathic abilities. She's able to read emotions because she's half human, but maybe if she digs deep inside, she could use her telepathic abilities and finally control someone, even though she hasn't done that for her entire life. Who knows? There's all types of fucking shenanigans that could fucking happen next week. But yeah. Shall I mark it?
Are we ready for that, Cheeto? Or are we still waiting
maybe
on
I
the
hit
poll?
Cheeto first.
Oh, sorry.
Should I mark it or should I wait for? Okay,
No.
It's
I don't care. Yeah, go ahead, Sam. Mark it.
7 out of 10, and that's a generous. I was very close to giving 6 because I didn't hate this episode. I just think that there's I'm not saying something missing, but it just didn't feel as engaging, and it was maybe with the exposition we got from finding out certain things, which was probably one of the best parts. I think there were some stupid elements with Jack and stuff like that. So Yeah, I'm giving it a very generous 7 out of 10. At least Shaw didn't fucking die. I'm sure people worried. Yeah, but he is expendable.
Say, what is Shaw doing? I mean, I'm not a
He
huge fan of
asked
Shaw.
them to blow the turbo lift. I'm pretty sure I heard him saying over the comms. He wanted them to blow him out into space to get rid of the changelings.
Yeah, exactly. So, but he's one person who might not last the season, by the way, and it's funny because he seems to be unusually very popular. Excuse me. But 7 out of 10 is what I give it, and that's a generous 7 out of 10.
I'm going to give it a 5, just because of all the things that I've talked about. As I said, this is kind of a turning point for this series. This week is kind of showing me some of the issues that Picard as a show has always had, and as I said, it's what Picard does. It seems like, except for season 1, like season 2 started off strong, in the middle got really bad, and then towards the end got a little bit better. It's kind of what it's happening here. It's like we had a great start, we had a great couple first episodes, and then we just start to see it dwindle, and now it's just kind of like bullfuckery. And I'm trying to be like, I don't even feel like there's going to be that great of a payoff for any of this.
Bullfuckery. Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Before we go to you, Mage, Daniel Vance gives it a 6. Wasn't my favorite episode of the season, but it was short enough I didn't get bored. Daniel Vance, is this the first time you've overranked me on anything? Because I'm pretty sure you always underrank me. So yeah, I'm giving it a 5. I can't. I can't. I would go for a 6 if I was being super generous, but I'm not. I'm not being generous with this one right now. I feel like we should, at this point, we should have everything established. We should be moving guns a-blazing, and now we are at a dead stop. And I get it. And Vatic is great. I like Vatic or Honey Bun. But it's just, there's just so many things that are just not coming together and culminating right. We didn't have any Riker and Deanna this week. We didn't have any Worf and Raffi this week. It was a claustrophobic episode on the Titan, and I guess that's what they were going for, but that's not what I wanted for this.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna meet you guys in the middle and give it a 6, just on the points of really good performances, especially out of Spiner and the lady who plays Honey Bun, and the music. I thought the music was good this episode, but all these problems we've been talking about the entire episode, so many instances of things just being chosen for plot convenience, and just the stupidity with the Jack stuff. And now they're wanting to go this route with there's more to Picard according to the Soong research, and just no. But I'll give it a 6 because of good performances and good music.
Before you jump in, Zen, I want to know in the chat who gave this episode a frickin' 10. Somebody voted in the chat as a 10. I want to know who.
That's gotta be Jim.
I want them in my ready room right now with an explanation. All right, go ahead, Sam.
I just want to say, you're right. I think the two actors' performances really stood out for me, and one of them wasn't Honey Bun, even though I thought she was very good. Obviously, Brent Spiner, he superb the way he was switching between Law and Data. But I also thought LeVar Burton was brilliant.
Yes.
Oh yes, I've never seen bring that up.
Like I thought, like I've never seen this sense of desperation from him in his character. Like he's quite a chipper guy, even in the most dire situations. He always seems to be very happy-go-lucky and go with the flow. But there was a real sense of desperation from him. The way he was pleading and begging with Law, to not let his daughter die was. I've never seen that sort of performance from him throughout the whole of TNG and everything in the movies.
And I agree that is that was something I did want to bring up, is that Geordie Ray Charles definitely had a great performance in this episode. Like LeVar Burton knocked it out of the park. As I said, the Honey Bun's performance, Geordie Ray. I didn't care much for Data's performance. I thought it was actually pretty status quo and not even that great. Truth be told,
I think because we're so used to seeing him he's such a phenomenal actor that we take it for granted.
No, you might be right.
But I appreciate it because there's a depth to the acting, which like it's funny in a way because when you're just watching them perform in front of a camera, you can't really get that sense of it until you see it on screen with the atmosphere and the music and all of that. It really makes you appreciate it a lot more. So, well done, Brent Spiner, for just being really good at what you're doing. Yeah,
But no, LeVar Burton knocked it out of the park this week for sure.
yeah.
Well, that was our spoiler review and debate of Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 7. Want to thank you guys for joining me this evening. It's been a pleasure talking with Trek as always with you guys. Thank you to everybody who showed up in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you smash that like button and the subscribe button if you haven't already. We talk about all sorts of content here on NerdTube, not just Star Trek. We talk Star Wars, sports entertainment. I mean, we even Zam watches gangster shows, just all
Ted has
sorts
been
of stuff.
watching doing Ted Lasso now, which is good fun. Sorry, I've had to put like Bad Batch to one side. I'm just a bit burnt out, but Ted Lasso I'm making an exception for. It's really good. If you like your sports and you like your fish out of water, and if you like being a Brit who works with Americans and having this sort of British American sort of culture clash and everything, it's fantastic. Ted Lasso is just the best comedy on streaming services, and I highly recommend people watch it. And I've got my first review of episode 3 of season 3 on our channel right now. I do want to say as well that tomorrow we'll be doing our weekly chat of what's happened during the course of the week in the world. Jonathan Majors will be getting a massive talking point as well as obviously and unfortunately, I just want to quickly bring this up, the sort of mass shootings we've been having in America. The right wing finally have decided to take one particular mass shooting seriously because a trans person done it, even though prior to that, it's been a cis white male with right wing rhetoric who tends to do these mass shootings, and they all happen to be lone wolves, and it's always thoughts and prayers. But now they're taking this one seriously. But what the fuck's going to happen from that? Who fucking knows? I doubt anything will happen from that, other than them wanting to shit on trans people. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about all of these things now. As Daniel Vance said, Trump is indicted. I'm going to have to quickly look on that. Does that mean that he's been put in cuffs and he's thrown in jail? What the fuck? No.
It's one step closer, though.
Yeah,
It's one step closer. But for me, this guy will never see the inside of a fucking prison cell ever, no matter what he's done. And we're talking about all the shit he done prior to even being president. But it's crazy that he's that like that. Of all the things this motherfucker's done in this world, it's using campaign donations to bribe a porn star. Now, bribery in America is legal because rich people can do it, so they make sure it's legal. Fraud isn't legal, but that affects rich people. So the thing that Trump is being indicted for is fraud because he's using campaign donations which should be used for his campaign, not to pay off fucking porn stars that he's raw dogged. So this is absolutely crazy. It almost feels like Al Capone and the tax evasion sort of thing. Is that's the only thing they could fucking get him on, and this time they're doing it with Trump. But anyway, we'll talk about all of that tomorrow. There's so much more to talk about as well. I mean, I'm sure we'll all have something to talk about at some point, and I look forward to that debate.
Just so you know, this Hella Big Fan Hi says
Hi,
if gazing
Hi, big fan. Hi, yeah.
If gazing at your beauty was harmful as staring at the sun, I would burn your silhouettes into my retinas. So even if I'm blind, I could always see you.
Man, this person has got some fucking lyrics, and I love that shit.
That's poetic.
I used to say shit like that when I was a stoner.
He said to the guy on the left. I don't know where the comments went though. He must have. I don't know where it went.
No, this person was on
Twitch, but it still should have shown up on our thing here.
Did they redact it?
I guess maybe he did. I don't know.
Well, there's a person called Stephen Ballmer's mentioned something.
No, but it
And he
wasn't that. It
redacted the
was
comment.
high something anyway. But anyway, he was talking about the person on the left, which I'm assuming is Major Rage. So
Oh,
Mage, prepare to be burned into somebody's retinas.
Yeah,
well then.
exactly.
And I think that's it. So yeah, that's it.
Wonderful.
Another great Star Trek debate, guys. Thanks for having me. Thanks to everybody in the audience for joining us. Thanks to everybody that comes by and watches the video after the fact. But you've been watching NerdTube, the greatest channel that you've sort of kind of maybe never heard of. Live long and prosper.
Peace and long
May the
life.
force